It's 6 in the morning at the haul-out yard, and the travel lift is bringing up a 31-foot center console that looks showroom clean from the dock. And I already know, before the hull clears the water, that I'm about to fail it, because I can smell it. Wet wood inside fiberglass has a smell, sweet and sour at the same time, like a basement going bad. And once you've condemned 100 transoms, you can catch it from 10 feet. The owner paid $62,000 for that boat 14 months ago. The buyer who hired me is about to not pay him anything at all. Saltwater is the most patient enemy your money will ever have. It doesn't sink boats. It dissolves them, from the inside, on a schedule measured in seasons, and it does not read brochures. And right now, if you're shopping for a saltwater boat, and July is exactly when folks shop, you're choosing between hulls that will shrug off 20 seasons and hulls that are quietly rotting under the gel coat while the listing says turnkey. I survey boats for a living. Buyers hire me to find exactly this before the money moves. And today I'm giving you the pattern straight. The 3 kinds of saltwater boats I keep condemning, over and over, the same autopsy every time. And the 4 hulls I see come through year after year that just refuse to die. Worst first, best last. And the number 1 best is the one whose reputation sounds like a marketing gimmick and turns out to be bolted down real. So stay with me for that one and grab a pen, because this list is the cheapest survey you'll ever get. I'm Sam Holloway. Let's get into it. Worst number 1. And it's the one from the travel lift this morning, the wood-hearted boat. Here's what most buyers still don't know. For decades, right up through the 90s and into the 2000s on plenty of production lines, the industry built fiberglass boats around wooden bones. Plywood cord into the transom, wood in the stringers, the skeleton under the floor, not cheap junk brands. Nearly everybody, including names you'd respect, because that's simply how boats were built, and I'll give the era its fairness beat. Encapsulated properly and kept sealed, wood cord construction served honest boats for 30 years, and some of the old-timers will tell you a dry wood transom is stiffer and quieter than half of what's built now. They're not wrong. The problem is the word sealed, because every screw hole, every transducer mount, every ladder bolt and trim tab some previous owner sank through that glass in 1998 is a straw, and saltwater has had a quarter century to drink through it. The wood soaks, swells, rots, and turns to wet cardboard while the fiberglass skin stays shiny, which is why the worst transom I ever condemned was on one of the prettiest boats I ever surveyed. The tap test tells you. The surveyor who trained me, an old fella named Cliff Ostrander, could walk a hull with a plastic hammer and read it like braille. Sharp knock means solid, dull thud means wet, and the moisture meter confirms what the hammer suspects. Replacing a rotten transom runs thousands. On bigger boats, it can pass 10,000 once the rigging comes off, and a wet structural stringer can total the boat outright. So the verdict on any wood-era hull in salt: it's not never buy, it's never buy unsurveyed. The boat's exact biography matters more than its badge, and the industry itself agrees with me, quietly, which is why the base boat builders went wood-free starting in the late 90s. And nearly every serious builder followed with composite transoms after the 2000s. They knew where the bodies were buried, they'd built them, and since half of you are about to go tap your own transoms, good, do it. Let me give you the full 5-minute version of the check, because it costs nothing and it saved my clients 6 figures collectively. Start at the outside of the transom with a plastic mallet or the handle of a screwdriver. Never metal, you're listening, not denting. And tap a grid, top to bottom, corner to corner. Solid glass answers you sharp and bright, like knocking on a countertop. Wet core answers dull and dead, like knocking on a full milk jug. And the moment the sound changes mid-panel, mark the spot with tape and keep mapping, because wet travels. Then look at the evidence salt leaves for free. Rust weeping from under the outboard bracket bolts. Gelcoat cracks radiating from the drain plug or that's the swelling wood pushing the skin. A trim and tilt that leaves a damp shadow on the transom hours after the boat's been dry. Step inside and press on the deck around the fuel tank hatch and the transom knees. Any sponginess underfoot in a glass boat is the floor telling you about the stringers underneath. None of this replaces a surveyor with a moisture meter. A meter reads what the hammer can only suspect, and sellers argue with hammers but not with numbers. But it decides, in 5 free minutes, whether a boat deserves the survey fee at all. Most of the money I save buyers, I save in those first 5 minutes. Worst number 2, the lake boat wearing a saltwater costume. This one breaks retirees' hearts every single year, and it's the pattern I most want to save you from. A couple retires to the coast, brings the family bull rider from the lake house, or buys a lightly used freshwater boat at a beautiful price because they know boats. And 18 months later, I'm standing in their cockpit pointing a flashlight at green fur and white powder. Because a boat built to a freshwater price point is built with freshwater metal, plain steel fasteners instead of proper stainless, untinned copper wiring that wicks salt up inside the insulation and corrodes from the middle out. You can't even see it happening. The wire just dies in its sleeve. Single-station aluminum rails, raw steel trailer hardware, drives and manifolds that were never designed to drink brine. None of that is a defect, by the way. That's the fairness beat. A lake boat on a lake is honest value, and the builders who make them make exactly what that market pays for. But Salt finds every penny the builder saved, and it finds them in this order. Electrics first, hardware second, drives third. A fella I'll call Buck Tillman, a composite of more coastal retirees than I'd like, brought his freshwater deck boat to the Gulf, and by season 2 the repair list read like a second purchase. Helm rewiring, new fuel sender, both trailer axles, and an outdrive service that cost more than the trailer. The math nobody tells you. Salt-rated construction costs maybe 15–20% more up front, and skipping it costs that much every season instead. Now, if you already own the lake boat and you're moving to the coast anyway, because I know half of Buck's story is somebody watching right now, there's a triage order that softens the blow. Flush religiously after every trip, engine and trailer breaks both. Get sacrificial anodes checked and switch to the right metal for your water. Aluminum anodes for brackish, and that's a 2-minute conversation at any marine store. Re-terminate the critical circuits. Bilge pump, nav lights, helm, with proper heat shrink marine connectors before the Salt gets a vote, and accept that the trailer is on borrowed time no matter what you do. Budget its funeral now. That regimen won't make a lake boat into a Parker, but it buys you seasons, and seasons are the whole game. Verdict for the buyer, though, stands. If the boat wasn't built for Salt, price a conversion budget or walk away. I'd walk away. Worst number 3, the Resurrection Special. And this one's the most dangerous of the 3 because it hunts on price. Storm boats, flood boats, auction flips, the cosmetically restored special with fresh gel coat, new upholstery, and a suspiciously beautiful price. There's a whole cottage industry that buys hurricane salvage and sunk boats for dimes, dries them out, makes them gorgeous, and feeds them back into the used market. And after every big storm season, that inventory washes across the whole country, far from any coast the storm touched. Here's what a week underwater does that: a weekend of detailing hides. Salt gets into every connector, every loom, every bearing, the engine's insides if it went under running or sat submerged. And then the corrosion works on a delay, failing component by component across the next 3 years. The paperwork sometimes confesses, salvage titles, title washing through lenient states, a boat that changed states twice in 6 months. And sometimes it doesn't, because boat titles are looser than car titles in most of the country. The tells I look for: brand new upholstery in an old boat with no receipts, a bilge that's too clean, mismatched age wiring, silt in places rain can't reach, the underside of the helm, inside the fuse panel, the fuel tank cavity, and do the $20 homework before you even drive out. Run the hull identification number, the HIN on the starboard side of the transom, through a boat history report, and while you're at it, search the hull number and the boat's name on the salvage auction sites, because storm boats get photographed at auction with their damage showing, and those photos live forever. I've killed more than one beautiful deal with a single auction photo of the same hull, sitting on a lot with 3 feet of waterline stain. Ask the seller directly, on a text message so it's in writing, has this boat ever been submerged, salvaged, or insurance totaled? An honest seller answers in a sentence, and a liar's hesitation on that question is worth more than the boat. Verdict: any deal that's 20% under market has a reason. Your job, my job, when a buyer hires me, is to find the reason before the money moves. Because on this one, there's no such thing as a bargain, only a bill on a timer. Now hold on, because before the four best, I owe you my own scar, since I preach surveys for a living. Years back, young and sure of myself, I bought a project boat at auction, told myself I could see everything Cliff had taught me to see, didn't put a moisture meter on her because she was mine and I was smart. She had a wet stringer I'd have caught in 10 minutes on anyone else's boat. I fixed it the hard way, one weekend at a time, and I keep the invoice folded in a drawer at the office like some men keep a fish photo. The most expensive education I ever bought, and the reason no boat gets a pass. Not even mine. Alright, the four best. And remember, these are my verdicts from the yards, opinions built on pattern. Your specific boat, year, and history always outrank the badge. And notice what all four have in common before I even name them, because the pattern is the real lesson. None of them is the cheapest boat in its class. All four cost real money used. And every one of them costs less per year of honest service than the bargain that needs a transom at year 12. In this game, cheap is a price, and inexpensive is a total. Learn the difference, and the rest of this list is just details. Best number 4, Parker, the workboat that went fishing. Simple, heavy, almost stubborn construction. Deep V, or modified V hulls the Carolina guides have hammered offshore for decades because they can't afford downtime. No glamour, no wine racks. Thick glass, honest layup, systems a mechanic can reach. Fairness caveat: the ride is workmanlike, the finish is plain, and you're not winning the Marina Beauty contest. You're winning the 20-year ownership contest. Best number 3, Regulator, the offshore purist center console. Deep V hulls that eat rough water, built heavy on purpose, with a following among serious canyon fishermen that borders on religious. On surveys, they come through tight. Consistent glasswork, hardware that matches the mission, and a kind of overbuilt stubbornness you can feel when you walk the deck. Nothing flexes, nothing drums under your boots. Old Cliff used to say you survey the builder's conscience, not the boat. And some hulls just tell you somebody cared on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody was watching. These do. Caveat: you pay for it twice, at the dealer and at the fuel dock, because heavy and deep V means thirstier. The fellas who own them consider it tithe. Best number 2, Grady White. Here's a brand whose owner satisfaction record is the quiet kind of famous. The industry customer satisfaction awards pile up year after year, and the used market holds their value with a stubbornness that tells you everything about how owners feel. The CV hull rides soft, the build quality is consistent, and the factory's customer support reputation is the stuff other brands' owners complain about wishing they had. My caveat, and it matters: the older Grady Whites came from the wood era like everybody else, so a 90s hull gets the same moisture survey as anything else from its decade. The badge earns respect, not exemption. And best number 1, Boston Whaler. And I promised you a reputation that sounds like marketing and turns out to be real. The unsinkable thing is not a slogan, it's construction. Whaler builds the hull like a fiberglass sandwich with closed-cell foam filling the whole cavity, glass and foam bonded into one structure. Famously, you can saw one in half and both halves float. They've been demonstrating versions of that stunt for 60 years. What that means on the water is flotation that doesn't care how bad your day got. And what it means on my surveys is hulls from the 80s still doing honest work. Caveats: because even the king gets one. You pay the whaler tax up front. Older hulls can take on water weight in the foam over the decades. My meter finds it when it's there. And the classic smaller whalers ride wet and hard in a chop. Nobody's perfect. But if you ask me the one production badge whose used hulls disappoint me least in saltwater, decade after decade, that's the one, and it's not particularly close. And one buying season note that ties this whole list together. The calendar is your ally on the best brands and your enemy on the worst ones. The Parkers and Whalers of the world sell in days in spring and sit soft in October when sellers stare down another winter of storage bills. So the fall buyer gets the good hull at the honest price. The rot boxes and resurrection specials run the opposite schedule. They surface in April and May, detailed to blinding, priced to catch the fever of a man who wants to be on the water by Memorial Day. Shop the best brands in the fall, and treat any spring bargain like it owes you an explanation. So let's run the whole thing back, clean, and take a picture of this screen if you're shopping this month. Avoid 1. The wood-era hull without a full moisture survey, because pretty gel coat hides wet bones. 2. The freshwater boat pressed into salt duty. The wiring and hardware were never invited to that fight. 3. The resurrection special. The too cheap flip with the too clean bilge, and the paperwork that's been on a road trip. And favor. Parker if you want the workhorse, Regulator if you run real water, Grady White for the whole family offshore boat that holds its money, and Boston Whaler if you want the hull that simply refuses to quit. And over all 7 verdicts, 1 law. The survey outranks the list. Every time, a good example of a bad brand beats a bad example of a good one, and the only way to know which you're looking at is to put hands, hammer, and meter on the actual boat. Have it surveyed before you sign, always, even if the seller is your own brother, especially then. What I can't give you is a failure rate by brand. Nobody publishes one. Not the builders, not the insurers, and anyone quoting you exact percentages is making them up. What I've given you is the pattern from the yards, and the comment section can now do what it does best. You fellas have owned these hulls longer than I've been alive, collectively. So drop your boat, year, water, and how she's held up, and let's build the record the industry never will. Next time, we head to the part of the lot everybody walks past. 3 cheap, ignored boats that survey clean over and over, the gold mines hiding in plain sight while the crowd bids up the famous names. Bring your skepticism, buy smart, stay afloat. I'm Sam Holloway, I'll see you back at the dock.